Hey, you awesome folks! Thanks for taking this journey of discovery with your guide, Keith Haney. You're listening to the Becoming Bridge Builders podcast, your favorite podcast for everything from racial reconciliation to education innovation, justice reform, and leading change in the 21st century. This podcast is for people who love to be challenged with difficult topics, but want practical solutions to solve these challenging issues. Becoming Bridge Builders makes change possible. Each week on the podcast, Keith invites innovative thought leaders to share how they are building bridges in their area of expertise. You will hear breakthrough ideas and concepts that are changing the world. He's featuring guests who are best-selling authors, leaders at Microsoft, entrepreneurs, leading educators, professors, lawyers, and so many more. Listen in to learn how you can be the bridge to the change you are seeking.
My guest today, Isabelle Fortin. Her journey started in the Royal Canadian Air Force. For the next decade, she developed her communication skills and learned critical leadership skills by attending the prestigious Royal Canadian Leadership School. Upon transitioning to civilian life, however, those same admirable traits were not recognized or valued by the company she worked for. She was shocked to notice that how much of her every person for themselves mentality the corporate world dominated the thinking. She knew this was no way she or anyone else could reach their goals in this type of atmosphere. So she decided to start her own business and create a better company culture that puts humans first. We welcome Isabelle to the podcast. Isabelle, welcome to the podcast. It's so good to have you on. Looking forward to this conversation. Love talking about leadership, and I love talking to people who love to talk to leaders. So we should have a lot of fun.
We should, and thank you for having me, Keith.
I'm so glad. So I'm going to ask you my favorite question that every guest has to answer before they get through the portal of deeper questions. And that is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
It would definitely be listen more than you speak.
Okay. I've heard that before. That's really interesting. Seemed like just seconds ago I heard that. But anyway.
Yeah, it seems like, yes.
And how do you apply that when you're working with leaders? I'm curious.
Well, I actually, I make sure that they start with me. So if they ask me a question that I've, kind of already answered, I'll go, gotcha, because if they do that to me, that means they're doing that with everybody. And I mean, Keith, truth be told, I do that too. Everybody does that.
Sure.
We feel and kind of rightfully so that communication is all about talking, and it's about getting your point across, and it's what do I want, how do I want it, what how do we get it done, and even if you are in service of others, you still have that kind of but I have something to say, because we need to be heard, and that is true, and it's true of leaders too. However, if you want collaboration, you have to bring people with you. And in order to bring people with you, well, they have to feel heard. So in order for them to feel heard, you have to shut your pie hole.
So do you ever, with leaders, like throw something out there that's totally out of the blue to see if they're actually paying attention? Because a lot of times you go to a meeting and you really don't intend to listen. You're just kind of present, but you're not actively involved and engaged in the meeting. So do you just throw things out randomly to see if they're actually paying attention?
All of the time. And I have a wicked sense of humor. So I'll say something like nasty, or either nasty or gross, or like something that, I'll give you an example, and please don't be grossed out and judge me by this. But if I see people are just, in their minds and not really paying attention, is okay. And so the following step will be to, we're all going to eat our vomit. And then, and Keith, I'm telling you, half the time I don't even get, eyebrows raised. And now I know that I don't got them no more.
Right. So how do you get them back?
That's a good way to see who's actually listening and paying attention to what you're saying. Yeah.
How do you get them engaged again if you've seen that you've lost them?
Stories.
Okay.
Stories have worked, as we humans, we've been telling stories to one another for ever since we existed. That came even before language was invented. So, yeah, stories work. And even on a neurological aspect of things, stories aren't processed the same way in the brains as information is processed. So when you share a story, all and we do that unconsciously, we listen to the story and we see how it's applicable to us, and not in a narcissistic way. It's just that's the way that the brain, it's biology, it's not narcissism. And so we'll hear a story about something that went well, and either we'll go, oh my god, I can't wait this happens to me, or we'll say, oh wow, yeah, this happened to me too, or something similar to that. So we take the story and kind of make it about us right now, like right away. And that's why we, watch movies and watch television and read books,
Oh, I love
because
that.
we can make it about us.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love talking about myself, so that'd be great.
There you go. Makes two of us.
That's right.
I like
It's like
talking about you too.
it's like that commercial. I'm the most interesting man in the world. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, so far you're a very interesting person, so we're good.
There we go. I'm curious, as you look back at your life, who are some people in your life who served as mentors or inspiration for you in your journey?
Oh, the first one would have to be my maternal grandmother. She was born in 1906 and she had a grade 2 education. She was the eldest of her family. So, that was that, right? As soon as her mother had more kids than she could handle, then the oldest of the family were pulled out of school to help raise the youngest. That's what it was. um and Keith, I have to tell you, she never missed an occasion to laugh. She would smile and sing and hum all of the time. And it's off topic, but I'm going to share this story because it's so beautiful. When she was about 75, I was in my 20s, maybe late teens, early 20s. And one particular Christmas time, I was given the task to go get her and bring her to the family gathering. And when I entered her little studio apartment, she was sitting in her rocking chair. So far, nothing, nothing new or exciting about that. But she wasn't knitting; she was reading. And truth be told, to that day, I didn't know she could read. I truly didn't.
Wow.
She was reading, and she kind of looked up, and she would call me darling. And she kind of looked up and she said, oh darling, can you give me just a moment? I just want to finish, like I got a page and a half before the end of my chapter. I really want to finish the chapter before we leave. And again, truth be told, I'm not a very obedient person, as you can probably guess. And but my maternal grandmother, I obeyed without question, ever. I don't know why that is. She wasn't particularly strict or anything like that, but she would have told me to walk on broken glass and I would have without question. So I sat there quietly on her little single bed, and I sat and I waited until she was done. And when she finished, she closed her book and she put it on her heart and she took a deep, deep breath. And she looked at me and she said, oh, darling, I didn't know I loved reading. She was
Mm,
75 years old. And at 75, she had just discovered something about herself. And that to me is so beautiful.
that is beautiful.
It's so beautiful, and it gives me hope for my future. That means I still have things to learn about myself. That's great. That's an exciting news.
That means you never stop growing. That's a wonderful lesson for us to know that we never get to the point where we ever need to stop growing, but always
Amen.
we're expanding our mind, our thinking, and learning keeps you young. Now we always heard. So
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Amen. Yep.
So you have an interesting background, and I'm curious what initially drew you to the Royal Canadian Air Force?
It was a family business.
Was it really?
Yeah, both my parents met. They were serving their country. And when I joined, yeah, my brother, I'm the youngest, and my brother was an Air Force pilot. So out of high school, I didn't really question what was the next step. I just pledged allegiance to the Queen because that's what we do here in Canada. Mind you, the Queen is deceased now, but yeah, sign on the dotted line and went to boot camp.
Wow. So I'm curious. My son's in the military. I'm just I know we talked a little bit about we don't talk about the training, but we talk about just the lessons he's learned. And I'm curious, what lessons in leadership did you learn from serving in the Air Force?
Well, I think that the best way to answer that question is how traumatized I was when I joined corporate America.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, when you're in the military and that's the only job you've had, you just, that's the norm, right? The military way of doing things is the norm. But when I got out, my first civilian job, I was there for only 5 months, and oh my God, yeah, it was not fun. And the leader of our little group, there was 16 women working in that department, and the leader, I remember looking at her going, oh my God, like she's really bad at this. And but I truly honestly thought it was her. And I got to my second civilian job, and well, the second one is as bad. And I stayed there for a couple of years, like 3, maybe 4. And third civilian job, it's just more of the same. And I was at the time battling um, demons that were more pressing in my personal life. So I didn't, take the time to really analyze what was the matter with leadership in corporate America. And it was about a decade later that I went, ah, it's the leadership training. And now I'm back to the military because that was the essence of your question. So in the military, and I'm friends with people who served in the U.S. Navy, in the U.S. Army, in the Marines, in the Air Force. I have friends that served their country in Czechoslovakia and Germany and France, and I have military or veterans around me from everywhere in the world. And it seems to be like that everywhere. So the way it works is, in order to get promoted, you need 4 things, 3 things. The first time is time in. So if you're eligible for rank whatever, let's say corporal, it's after 4 years of service. Well, if you have 3 years and 9 months, you're not eligible for that promotion. The second is you need to have your training as in your trade. So I worked in training control. That's the name of the trade. And so I needed, let's say, a qualification level 4 in order to get promoted to corporal. And the last thing is, in order to achieve a rank where you are going to be in a leadership position, you need leadership training.
Mm.
And if you didn't get the leadership training, you don't get the promotion. Now, in the civilian world, and it's still like that to today, it's actually gotten worse. They will take the best salesperson, the person who hits their number month after month, year after year after year after year, and they say, oh, wow, this person is such a great salesperson. We're going to put them in charge of the sales department. Yeah, but selling is a skill and leadership is another. And they don't train them in leadership. And Keith, honestly, the number is scary. Because in the US alone, leadership training is only 6%.
Wow.
Leaders that get leadership training. And the bigger the company, the more they are likely to get training. So Meta, they will form Amazon. They teach leadership to their quote unquote bosses. But mom and pop shop, or even 500 employees, they don't train their people in leadership. And leadership is a skill.
So as you think about, as you study that, why is that the case? Is it that people think leadership is you born with it and your skills are what makes you a leader, or they just ignore the importance of leadership?
I think they ignore the importance of leadership. That's the biggest one. And the other thing is we still, and it's the same thing here. This is not America bashing at all. It's they corporate America confuses management and leadership.
Mm,
There's a lot of managers out there, but they call themselves leaders. But that's not what leadership is. Leadership is not about getting things done. Leadership is about taking care of the people who actually do the job. And they confuse that.
I just did my dissertation on leading change in churches. And part of that was I tried to study, did different leadership styles, were they more effective or less effective at leading change than others? And I thought in the church, you'd find that servant leadership was going to be the number one style that did that. But I realized that actually performed rather poorly. It was transformational leaders who were better at leading organizational change. I'm curious, as you work in corporate America, do you find a particular style of leadership that is more conducive to being a better leader than others?
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's transformative. It it is really surprising how little the employees or the team members need to feel seen, heard, and valued in order to be willing to crawl through broken glass for their bosses. They don't need a lot, but they need it. And if you don't give it to them, but you know what? Now the youngest generation, they just leave. Or that's the new term now is silent quitting, is they don't quit the
Right.
job, but they quit their engagement in the job. And that is as costly as them leaving. So
Yeah.
yeah, the leader's job is to take care of the people. Do you have the necessary skills? If not, how can we train you? Do you have the necessary tools? If not, how can we better even your work environment? Are you comfortable? Do you have the right chair for your height, for your size, for your are you doing okay on a human level? Are you going through something without, being a therapist because that's not your job? Can I support you in something? Has your baby sister just, got diagnosed with breast cancer? Is your mom dying of or does your dad have Alzheimer's? Are you the in-between generation where you're facing your elderly parents that need help and your kids that are young, because we have children later in life now, so there's a generation that is always stuck in a sandwich, right? The
Right.
elderly parents and the young kids at the same time. So how can I, on a human level, how can I support you? Can I, give you an extra half a day off once in a while, just cuz there's nobody at home and you need a nap? I
Right.
understand you can't do that for everybody all the time. I understand that, but how can I support you on a human level?
I'm curious when we talk about leadership and things you're talking about. I have always wondered, can you train someone to be a transformational leader,
Yes.
or do you have to just like be born? Because there's always that question of, are you born a leader or can you raise up leaders?
Yes. And the job of a leader is to create more leaders.
Right.
That's the job of a leader. Um the stats worldwide, the stats of excuse me, of sociopath is 3 to 5% worldwide. So these are people that are born without the ability. They don't have the ability to be empathic,
Mm-hmm.
to feel for somebody else. So They will become, either mass murderers or CEOs of extremely large corporations. And unfortunately, I'm half joking
Right.
because worldwide, 3 to 5% are sociopath, but CEOs of Fortune 500, that number is between 6 and 10%.
Wow.
That means more of these people get all the way to the top, right? Because they're extremely manipulative and they, get to have what they want. So are they happy? I doubt it, but um that means that 95, let's say we take the biggest number and it's 5% of people that are sociopath. That means 95 people, 95% I should say, out of close to 9 billion people have the ability to feel empathy. But Keith, you're in a church. Empathy can be developed. Empathy can be increased. It's a muscle. And the more you do it, the better you become at it, the more you inspire it, the better you become at it, and the more it's around you. It's the same thing with leadership because when I start working with a leader, I always tell them there's 3 pillars of leadership: adaptability, empathy, which are both of them are necessary and absolutely mandatory, at least to work with me. But the first one is humility, being coachable, being willing to learn. But you know what? You have to be willing to learn from your people too,
Right.
because they
Right.
have something to teach you.
Yeah, that is really critical. And
Yes.
and I wonder if West servant leaders get caught up in my study was they got caught up so much in not wanting to have their people upset with them that they didn't do the take the next step of you may be upset, but my goal is to develop you into a better you, and the bigger goal is to focus on the overall goal of the organization,
Mm-hmm.
not just making you feel good. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what I discovered in the churches was in church doesn't move beyond that next level is we get stuck in I want people to like me kind of a thing.
Yeah, I was just as you were saying that, all I was thinking was they become people pleaser if they are
Right.
not already.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, there's 4 positions of leadership. There's three. There's the leader ahead, the leader behind, and the leader on the side. The leader ahead is like, follow me, I know where we're going. The leader is, on the back is like the one, pushing them forward all the time. And the one on the side is going, oh, let's go. It's like almost a cheerleader.
Right.
But the reality is sometimes it's okay. You have to be in front, and sometimes you have to be in the back, and sometimes you have to be on the side. And so it's not one position that's accurate. And sometimes you do have, or it'd be better if you're a servant leader. But if you're always a servant leader, yeah, I think you're just a people pleaser. You need
Yeah.
to be liked more than you need to do your job. Yeah.
Right. I do like to be liked though.
Of course. And who doesn't?
But I remember in leading sometimes it's like they're not going to like me, but we have to do this.
Yeah.
And if you don't get to the point of we have to do this, you just get stuck in organization. And sometimes it's painful. The change that has to be made is painful, and you realize that it's going to take a hit. But
Mhm.
if we're going to get beyond this nice comfy thing, this nice comfy place, then we have to be able to step out in front and take some hits.
Yes, and evolution comes with revolution.
Right.
I mean, I have a coach. I have several, but one in particular. And in my personal development as a human being, and I'm going to be very careful not to use foul language. But when I tell her to F off, it's because she is hitting the nail. She is hitting like right on the nail. She is not 1 millimeter off. She's not doing this to be, vindictive or unkind, or actually quite the opposite. Is she's showing me something about myself I may not like to hear, don't want to admit, but in order to be better, I need to face that. So it's sometimes it's the same thing as in a leadership role. It's just, and it's not the I'm going to beat you up and I'm going to be unkind. That's not serving either, but it's I'm not gonna sugarcoat everything because I want you to like me. Your growth is more important. Yeah.
I'm curious, how important do you think it is for leaders to have a coach? I have had coaches in my life, and it's been sometimes, especially moments where I was either stuck or I felt like I need to take another level, and I was getting there, but I just wanted someone to kind of, give me that incentive or give me some insights I may not see. How important do you think it is for leaders to have a coach?
Crucial. Whether they call it a coach, a consultant, or a mentor, it doesn't matter which word or title I yeah, and truth be told, I don't like that title. I don't like the coach. I think it's been overused and
Yeah.
people don't know what to do anymore and they call themselves coaches. Um, so but yeah, it is crucial, and it is crucial for the employer or manager or leader to also be willing to learn from their people, from their teams. If somebody walks in my office, in my organization, if somebody walks in my office and asks me a question and I don't know the answer, they're not getting a BS answer. They're getting a I have no idea. Followed by, okay, so we're going to sit down, we're going to figure this out. And if that person is the best person to figure it out and their way works, why would I say no to that? I
From
don't
your
have we don't have
Yeah,
all the answers.
no, we don't. From your vast experience, what's your process for helping corporations or companies develop leaders in their organization?
Well, the first thing that I do is I use a psychometric assessment that's called Nova. It's from Switzerland. I There are several assessments out there, or personality test if you prefer. I don't really particularly like that term, but because I don't think any personality has, to be tested, because if you say test, that means there's a possibility of failing, and there's no such thing. It's just what is there. So this assessment that I use, the reason I've done them all, name them, I've done them all except for the ones that came out in the recent years. But I like it because it not only goes into the cognitive preference or behavioral preferences or communication preferences of the individuals, but it also goes into the core motivations and the beliefs that the person has. And if you take a cognitive preference or even a behavioral preference and use it, um, if you take the metaphor of a car to identify that, well, the motivation is what fuels the car. And unless you use violence or fear, you can't motivate another human being to do anything. What you can do is tap into what motivates them and align it with what you want. Show them what's good, what's in it for them, in order to either buy from you or do it the way that you'd like them to do. So for me, using a tool like Nova is an expedited way to get to know not only the leaders but the people they lead. So then I can actually, it's not a cookie cutter method. I can actually teach the leader, well, this particular person, this is how you motivate that person. They will not respond to 20K more a year. They don't care. That's not their motivation. Their motivation is time. And the other person, when you walk in their office, if you go straight to the point and you don't take the time to have a human connection with them, they feel offended. And that's all just the way that their brain is wired. Because some people prefer when you walk in their office and go and you could talk with bullet points and they would be happy. And some others are a little bit more relationship oriented and they need you to ask how the mother was and what'd you do over the weekend and oh my goodness, you started CrossFit. That's wonderful. You like it. I can see you like it. So it's how the leaders can truly, in an extremely expedited way, adapt their leadership style and their communication style to the individual much quicker than just by trial and error and misunderstanding and frustrations. And most of the time, people quit because people don't leave jobs, they leave bosses.
Mm. Well, 20K get my attention, but
Got mine too. I have expensive tastes. But I'm auto financed, so I'm
that's right.
okay.
That's right. Oh, I love talking to you, Isabel. I am curious. One of my other favorite questions is, what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, perspective. I seem to have, and I've recently discovered that, recent in the last 5 to 7 years, I seem to have a different perspective on many, many, many things. And regardless of the subject of conversations, regardless if I'm at work or in my personal life, if I'm with my significant other or if I'm with friends from all walks of life and from everywhere in the world, I always seem to look at things in a different way than
Mm,
most people. And when I was younger, I didn't know that that was the difference. And although, and I was trying to not fit in, but I was trying to, like, I was questioning myself, like, why do I always have a different way to look at things? And now I do the complete opposite. It's just, I embrace it. And I welcome with open arms people who think differently than me
mm,
because that's how you grow. I talk about my best friend very often. We've been friends since 1989. And Keith, we have nothing in common. Nothing. She's married. I am not. She has children. I do not. She lives in the boonies in the middle of a field. I live in the suburbs. She, the only place she travels to are all inclusive packages, and that's okay. She's paying for the vacation. She can go where she wants. I go to an all inclusive vacation once every decade for 5 days and not 7. So we have nothing in common except that we truly, deeply, deeply love one another as human beings. And the reason, the number one reason she is my best, best, best friend ever for 36 years now is because whenever I go to her, she will always see things differently. Always. And take any subject on this planet and she will see things differently than I do. And that has allowed me to broaden my horizons and understand the world better.
I love that.
I don't I don't particularly like people who always say I seek like-minded individual because what it sounds to me, that doesn't mean they are. It's my perception. But what it sounds like to me is I don't want to grow.
Mm.
I'm fixed in the way that I see the world and I am not open to seeing it differently.
Very
That
true.
being said, that doesn't mean they are. I'm just
Right.
saying
No.
this is what I hear just by that sentence. Yeah.
Which is kind of one of my podcasts. I always get people who I don't necessarily agree with because it makes for a more interesting conversation.
Absolutely. Because I find that we've become so polarized
Yeah.
in every country. It's not only what's happening in the States or what's happening between states and Canada. That's politics aside, we've become polarized. But what happened to discussing things and not trying to convince the other person that we're right and being just open to learning something? And that doesn't mean you and I could talk about anything and see things very differently. And at the end of the day, I'll still love you. You'll still love me because you're a human being. You're walking this planet. You're doing the best that you can.
Right. Exactly.
And so am I. So isn't that enough to at least talk?
Right.
I'm
I
not
would
trying
agree.
to convince you my way is the best way. I'm just sharing you what my way is like,
Right.
and vice versa. But we've lost that.
Yeah, we have. So as
So,
we wrap this up, and this has been a great conversation, where can people connect with you on social media?
social media is the best way is LinkedIn. Isabelle Fortin. There's a few of us, so look for the one with the purple hair. And on my website, againsttheordinary.org. And please be gracious with me. My website is not the best looking. It is getting a paint job at the moment. But yeah, so it's just, I did it. And I don't know. I don't drink alcohol, but I must have been drunk on something because yeah.
Well, AI does an amazing job with websites, so you can do
True,
that.
very true.
Well, thank you so much for being on. You have a
Thank you.
wonderful, blessed day. Thank you for sharing about leadership with my audience.
Thank you very much for having me. You can have me anytime.
Would love to.
Thanks for listening to Becoming Bridge Builder. If you enjoyed this episode and want to help support the podcast, please subscribe and share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at @bkeithhaney and on Getter and Twitter @RevHeadpin. Thanks again and tune in next time.